Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm Mike Byrne, aka magicman, and this is episode 351. We're doing it live again on Twitch. It is August 14th. If you're not joining us, shame on you. Head on over to twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Follow us there to check out our live streams every Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, we do the free-to-play cast, normally at 1 p.m. Eastern, normally. But today, we're going a little later, and you'll find out why in a second, because when we cover the news, I've got some friends to do it with me. First up, Mr. Jason Winter, how are you, sir?
Are you really my friend? I mean, the check hasn't come through this month, so I'm not sure if I can really classify.
Wow. That hurts, Jason. That hurts.
I mean, you really need to check with your accountant, make sure you don't try to pay me through the Apple Store, because I only accept it direct.
Well, if I do, I'll just pay 30% extra so they get their cut and you get the full amount. Also on the line, and why we're recording a little later than normal, is our special guest host, Mr. Zach Sharps. Welcome to the live show, Zach.
Yeah, that's weird. It's live now. I was complaining about my webcam on Twitch, and that's basic streamer issues, I guess. But got it working.
Yeah,
now when you mispronounce PIR round, it'll be live.
It'll be live.
I know.
Yeah,
well, it's not really mispronouncing if you just blend it all together, right?
Yeah. I mean, around.
Just around. But yeah, we got a ton of game stuff, and we had show notes put all together, and I sent it, as I always do, with the caveat of show notes are done, but if there's like some time left in the business day, I'll put a little note to Jason or Q or Zach or whoever. Hey, Adrian, welcome to chat. I'll put a little note that says the show notes are done. You can take a look at them. I reserve the right to change them if something big happens. And most of the time, it doesn't, because that stuff happens after we've recorded the free-to-play cast, not after I've done the show notes. However, yesterday it did, so we've got a bigger story we're going to start with, so let's get started. Let's slide over and get the news. All right, here we go. So if you don't know what happened yesterday with Epic Games, Fortnite, Apple, and Google, we're going to give you a little bit of a recap. Really, we're going to focus more on everybody's opinions on this, more than the actual events themselves. If you want a recap of the events, check out the episode of MMO Thoughts that went up on MMOBomb last night, where we break down the history in 2019 and then through current, and take you through everything that happened. But here is the gist of it. Some of you may remember that Epic was very unhappy with Steam and its 70-30 revenue split with developers when they started launching the Epic Game Store. That was their whole big campaign, and they gave a bigger revenue split to developers. They were also equally unhappy with both Google for its Play Store and Apple for the App Store for having the same 70-30 revenue split, with the additional caveat of Epic kind of viewed them as monopolies in their industry. And yeah, you can put apps on your Android devices without using the Google Play Store, but their argument was there were so many barriers and unnecessary warnings that people might be turned off, and they effectively created a monopoly. On the other side, Apple absolutely would be arguable to have a monopoly on the App Store, the only way to get a real app on the iOS devices. I should say, for total accuracy's sake, yes, you can sideload apps, but generally a lot of places don't make that available for you, and in some cases it breaks terms of service. So for all intents and purposes, you have to use the App Store. Now, here's where we get into the fun stuff, Jason. Epic capitulated earlier this year and joined both of those app stores and agreed to the 70-30 splits, but yesterday decided, you know what, we're going to put in a way for you to buy V-Bucks in Fortnite in the app, rather than having to go through the App Store or the Play Store and give Google or Apple its 30%. And to boot, Zach, we're going to give you a permanent discount on said V-Bucks if you do it that way. Needless to say, Apple and Google not very pleased. Apple in particular immediately jumped on this and booted them from the App Store, giving a statement saying the App Store is created to be fair and safe and everybody is treated the same. You purposely bypass this. This was in the terms of service you agreed to. Boot. You're gone from the App Store, and we'll talk about maybe getting you back on there. Later in the evening, Google followed suit for just about the same reasons, although they were able to hide under the shield of, hey, if you want to play Fortnite on an Android device, you can still do that. You just can't do it through the Play Store, because if you are on the Play Store, purchases have to go through the Play Store, and Epic violated this. Epic turned around immediately and filed a motion for injunctive relief in courts against Apple, again, claiming monopoly and all that fun stuff, and saying that, interestingly, they weren't looking for financial damages from Google. They weren't looking for a special deal from Google for themselves, but they were looking for the courts to give the okay for special deals for everybody and opening up the Apple platform to competition in possibly a new digital distribution medium to compete with the App Store. They then jumped in game and had a little event where they created already an animated short ready to go and played. We'll show that in just a minute as we're talking. This was all ready to go. Fortnite, this was planned. Epic had it all lined up. They were ready to go. That catches you up very quickly. Zach, what were your thoughts as it all played out yesterday?
So my thoughts on Epic as a whole is very complicated. I think of them as two different companies. Unreal Engine, which is extremely generous, very pro-competition, even funding new engines with their Epic Mega Grants program.
Well, hell,
so
with Unreal Engine 4, you could do anything for free, basically, anymore.
Exactly.
I've been messing with it. I'm not public about what I'm messing with, but I know you are with, quote, game.
Test game. Yep.
Test game.
I've been developing a test game within it. And so I got really in the weeds in terms of getting to know the Unreal Engine side of Epic. But what made me even more, I guess, annoyed is how different of a company they are when you look at the EGS side of things, the Epic Game Store. They're very anti-competition. They want to basically take a bunch of AAA games and take them away from other platforms with timed exclusivity deals. So, and then if you look at this particular scenario where they are essentially trying to open up app stores on other platforms, you could see that as a bit more pro-competition. Really what they're trying to do is just get around the 30% cut so that way they can bring on their own Epic Game Store platform and sell stuff through there, at least most likely, as well as with Fortnite, as they already tried, reduce the cost of those V-Bucks so people feel like buying more, aka bumping up their profitability a bit. So there's a lot of nuance in this particular initiative by Epic, but it is kind of a little shady, or rather not necessarily 100% pure when they plan out a chain of events such as breaking intentionally a terms of service and then already having a ready to go animated video. Kind of a little hypocritical too, considering, they're, I think, 40% owned by China. So I mean, you have that aspect too, but I think in the end, this is going to be good for the industry if there's some movement here, because Steam also wants this too. I believe there was an interview with Gabe Newell who mentions that Apple and Google have strangleholds on the mobile space. And you can argue they should, because that's their operating system, especially with Apple. I mean, you buy an iPhone, you're on iOS. So should they be able to control that? It's hard to argue that they shouldn't be able to. Google is a little bit more actually in the wrong, considering there's multiple phones not made by Google, yet there is only really one Google Play Store. So it's a very complicated issue. I'm citing about 50% with Epic because I understand the need, but I also don't really care for the hypocrisy that they're presenting also with their argument.
Yeah, and that's something I did talk about in the MMO Thoughts episode, was who do you really side with? Like, it's easy to look at the court filing and say, okay, look, Epic is clearly after breaking up what they think is a monopoly and creating competition here. They've specifically in writing said, we don't want financial compensation for damages. We don't want a special deal for us. We want this to be different for everybody. Okay, but if you take that at face value, Jason, isn't that really just a way of saying, hey, we're the big dog? They want the impression of we're the big dog fighting the fight, right? Like Taylor Swift and Spotify, a fight she did not need to take part in, didn't need the money in, but fought the good fight because she could. She had the money and the standing to be able to do it. Epic wants that look of we're the big dog fighting the fight because the small dogs can't. But as Zach said, is it really just a way to get the Epic game launcher, a digital distribution platform, on iOS devices at the end of the day, or on Android devices at the end of the day, and compete with the App Store or the Play Store? Or is it a place of they are being genuine? Zach tends to believe there's a little bit of disingenuineness going on there.
Yeah, both sides are partially in the wrong and partially in the right on this. And in the end, it comes down to companies wanting more money. That's ultimately what it's about. Apple wants more money. They want their cut from, and Google wants their cut from their store, and Epic wants to have a larger cut of of their profit from stuff bought in Fortnite and other stuff. And as you said, on the one hand, they're not wrong, but they are a little disingenuous in they're trying to scoop it up and say, "Oh, we're the protectors and champions of freedom," and trying to help out all these other companies as well. But on the other hand, you have the point that other companies can't do this. Smaller companies can't. It takes a big dog like Fortnite to lead this fight, or a big dog like Epic to lead it. So
yeah, is it one of those situations where they might have their own reasons for wanting to do this, but at the end it could be a net good for everybody? Because that's kind of the way I feel about it. Like, they individually are putting on the PR spin. That's fine. You got to love the video. I thought.
No, you don't.
I thought it was, kind of tacky that it.
Someone pointed out something really, really, really great though. It was like this didn't this show up like in the game? Like, wasn't this showed off in the game?
Yeah.
So
like,
what do they ask?
An hour after the filing went out, playing on obviously the old 1984 Apple commercial when the Macintosh was introduced, playing again on the 1980. For our viewers,
I know
some of them are younger, Jason.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, hey, everybody gather up to watch our video.
Yeah.
Of people gathered together, stone-faced, watching a video.
Yeah. And it's also just hypocritical considering, like I got mentioned, they're 40% or so ownership by China. So
yes, do you root for the megacorp or do you root for the slightly smaller megacorp half owned by Tencent? So
and you have to kind of separate all these different Epic arguments, because the snapping up exclusivity deals, the way they've been doing it, very aggressive, very, this game's going to come out next month. Oh shit, hold on, now it's exclusive, not well down the line like Sony and Microsoft do. Like, that would be counterintuitive to what they're trying to claim here if you really wanted to make that comparison. It gets messy for all of them. Here's the end of the day. At the end of the day, I think this is the weirdest part. You've basically tricked Apple into an antitrust suit. That's kind of where this is going. You are literally asking a judge not to give you any damages, not to seek a special deal, but you're essentially, and I said this in MMO Thoughts, Zach, asking a judge to say, yeah, I think the App Store is a monopoly, and this needs to be looked at. Jason, your point, again, I made it on MMO Thoughts as well, is they have maybe a right to be kind of a monopoly, since you're talking about the end user device being also created by them, by Apple. So wait, I'm giving people the ability to work on my platform. They just have to do it through me because I make the devices and I make the platform. Don't I have a right to close off my own product? Well, back in 1999, Microsoft thought the same thing, and they got deemed a monopoly, and that ended up settling with the Department of Justice, and they opened up the Windows operating system, and a little bit of a different example. But we have examples of this exact type of thing, Zach, and it looks like Epic kind of said, let's pull the rug and force them into an antitrust suit, and Apple just, I guess for their part, was all too willing to go along with this.
I guess the real question is if they do end up losing, or if Apple loses the case to some degree, what are they going to be required to do?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be required to allow Fortnite to be able, or EGS to be able to be on the Apple App Store. I think what they probably will do is just basically make it so you can download packages like you can on Android and call it a day. I mean, I really doubt, in just thinking of US law and also just the nature of this country, especially right now, that we would force a company to sell another platform on their platformception, I guess, without there being any sort of power, or rather, any sort of challenge for the opposing company, being Epic. Epic at least would have to market their own platform. They shouldn't be able to just hop on the App Store, have their EGS pop up there, have all that advertisement, all that accessibility, and not have to do anything, and just not have to pay any cut whatsoever. Because then why is anyone paying a cut?
It'll
Just
be
say you're a
interesting.
platform.
It'll be interesting to see if there's paperwork filed against Google, because the argument there is different. As a number of people in chat,
It's way different.
As a number of people in chat have pointed out, whether if you buy a Sony phone, Sony has an app store. If you buy a Samsung phone, they have their own type of app store, and you can get the Google Play Store, and you can sideload apps directly from sites, and it doesn't really violate terms of service. And providers usually put an app available somewhere for you to direct download, where you don't see that stuff going on the Apple side of things. Generally speaking. So it'll be interesting to see what is the argument with Google. They've already laid the argument back at the end of 2019, Jason, when they were, slamming Google for this, saying they couldn't say that they were a monopoly because you did have all these other options, but they said that there were like unnecessary barriers, that it might as well be a monopoly, and extra warning messages when you do something outside of the Google Play Store and things like that. It'll be interesting to see if there's a filing. They weren't as prepared for this one, I guess. Because it's been 14 hours, and the only thing that Fortnite said on their Twitter was that it's no longer on the Play Store. We'll have an update soon. Whereas as soon as Apple banned them, there was a filing made and a party thrown in Fortnite. They got exactly the reaction they wanted to out of Apple. We'll have to watch to see where the Google side of this goes.
Yeah, they call Google illegal. Or they call it. It said Epic is requiring apps to use Google Store for in-app purchases, quote, with a 30% fee is illegal in the case of a distribution platform with over 50% market share. So yeah, they don't like that either, and they actually, although again, if they're calling that illegal, why don't they file a suit against that or whatever? So I don't know. I'll tell you what I do though. If I'm Apple and I lose this, I say, okay, we'll do it like Google. Anyone can put other stuff on there. You can download through other means or whatever. But now it's 60-40 in the App Store. Because we have greater exposure. That's why you can do it. That's why we talked about we talked about Gaijin Entertainment while they were upset about we shouldn't have even put War Thunder on Steam or whatever. My point was, well, if you don't think the 30% cut is worth it, don't have it on there.
Yeah.
Because you have the greater exposure and the bigger market. That's why they're charging their 30% or whatever. If I'm Apple, I'm like, you can have little stops and whatever, but that's going to cost you 40% to be on our store. So there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I really think of it, and I've always thought about this way with Steam and EGS as well. Like, I do think Steam could lower their cut a little bit, sure, but in the end, you're opening your product up to a massive market. Steam makes millionaires overnight. I mean, look at Fall Guys, for instance. That game is massive now. That wouldn't have been the case if it was on another platform, most likely. If it launched on GOG or Epic, if Epic didn't market it and just put it up there, it wouldn't have been the same. I mean, you open yourself up to a massive amount of users, and everyone knows when they're on iPhones that they have the iOS App Store. Everyone knows when they are on an Android phone, they have the Google Play Store. So when you're trying to basically say that the 30% cut isn't worth it, you're saying that entire market and that trained behavior is not worth it. And that's a very hard thing to argue unless you're being extremely dishonest, or you're a major corporation like Epic, who could potentially probably train new behaviors to get people to download a new platform on their phone.
And Steam also has the revenue split changing at certain. I mean, I know they are exorbitant. I know they're exorbitantly high. You need to be high. Epic Games dollar type to get the better revenue split. But Yeah, there are those options there too. And then when you think about consoles, they all have basically a 30% split there
Yep.
too. When you look at the Xbox and the PlayStation and the Switch, and hey, is the Nintendo Marketplace the only way I can get something on a Switch? Is that the same thing as the App Store on Apple devices? I don't know. Epic hasn't really said anything about their thoughts on that one, but you've got a company that makes a device. They make a digital distribution platform for that device. They take a 30% cut out of anybody that wants to be on that digital distribution platform. That sounds
Yep.
a lot like what Apple does. So I don't know. We will be keeping an eye on this one. I think it's interesting. So let's slide over and talk about some other things. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Now, we've got some new content or new release stuff coming up. We're going to blow through this because there's not a lot of like news here, but these are things that we think you should know about and things that I like. I like. So, Fantasy Star
Don't we ever
Online.
do anything I like?
No. We were doing stuff you like. The second one is something you mildly like.
What?
The middle topic is definitely something you like.
No.
Anyway,
Go
Fantasy
on.
Star Online 2 has passed the 1 million player mark. As useless as that stat usually is, it is always impressive when you get past that first million just to say, hey, you're doing well. However, I think it's funny that it took the Steam launch to get there, Jason, because it didn't do it while it was on the Microsoft Store.
Microsoft Store and,
It
and
did
Xbox,
it
right?
within like a week and a half of becoming available on Steam to pass the 1 million mark. That, and if you're a fan of the Persona series, particularly Personas 3, 4, and 5, there's a cross-promotion event going on there. We have scratch-off ticket items, emotes, all that fun stuff. So check out that if you're a PSO2 player. Next up, Jason, you take this one.
Like a card game I don't play is doing stuff. But okay, just to show you how do whatever. Anyway, Legends of Runeterra has a new expansion, and then it's going to have more expansions because they're grouping them together into what they call a set of 3 expansions. So that's how they're going to do stuff. Going to be a kind of larger expansion for the next one called Call of the Mountain. Actually, Call of the Mountain is a set, I think now. I don't even remember. Yeah, Call of the Mountain set. The first part of it is going to be out in August 26th. Going to have about 80 cards. And then the next 2 sets after that will come out about every 2 months, have about half as many cards each. So, like I remembered back for the really, really old CCG fans, I remember Legend of the Five Rings did something they called Rolling Thunder. That was the overall name of their program. And what they did is they did the same thing. They split up expansion into like 6 different sets, each about like 50, 60 cards, something like that. And they came out every month. So it was like, let's say the set was called the Emperor's Favor or something like that. It was like a Japanese samurai kind of thing. So you'd have the Emperor's Favor Part 1, next month the Emperor's Favor Part 2, next month the Emperor's Favor Part 3. The issue they had was apparently that a lot of stores didn't order the new stuff because be like, oh, hey, Emperor's Favor Part 2 is coming out. Yeah, we already have Emperor's Favor. We got enough of that in stock. This is Part 2. You have Part 1. We have Emperor's Favor. We don't need any more. So that was the issue they had with that. And I've often thought that this would still be a reasonably successful idea for a digital CCG, and it looks like Riot is taking that tack now.
Interesting. Zach, I know you're super excited about this next one.
Oh yeah, Blessed Unleashed. Oh yeah, it's coming to the PlayStation 4 soon. And the closed beta apparently is taking place between August 20th and August 24th. So
yeah,
there's that.
Literally
Blessed 5,000. He'll close down for the 5,000 in the first time. Coming soon to a dumpster bin near you.
So let me just tell you something funny about the Bless Unleashed situation there and coming to PlayStation, right? So if you don't know, they made the announcement that it's going to come to PC early 2021, right? I got emails from the team that I talked to behind the scenes there at NeoWiz months ago that said, hey, under embargo, this game is going to be released on PlayStation 4. And here's the time frame we're looking at. So I knew that it was coming to PlayStation 4, I don't know, let's say 2 months ago. Something exorbitant like that. They neglected to mention PC at all. And then a few weeks after we had talked about, yeah, I'll keep it under embargo and everything, they sent over press releases that were like, yeah, it's coming out on PC early 2021. And I'm sitting there like, where's the PlayStation announcement that we talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago that it's going to come out later this year on the PlayStation 4? You just skipped that and jumped straight to the whatever. So their marketing is a bit funny sometimes. But yeah, there you go. And finally, on the new content, we would be remiss if we did not at least mention that the Helminth Dev Workshop for Warframe is up. If you haven't checked it out, it does answer a lot of frequently asked questions about the Helminth system in Warframe that's coming in the Heart of Deimos update. So, and by the way, they changed it now. It's just called the Helminth. Rather than the Helminth Chrysalis system. So just Helminth. They did give a list of all the abilities you'll be able to put on your Warframe that come inherently from the Helminth. They did talk about resources and making secretions for the Helminth and feeding it. And they did go through and they list every ability that will be available to grab from every Warframe. Now, interestingly, there are a few abilities that increase damage output. The damage buffing abilities, in particular, Mirage's Eclipse, Rhino's Roar, that type of thing. They did mention this. Since those abilities are able to be put onto another Warframe, what happens when you start stacking them? And the answer is, you ain't going to be able to stack them. So you cannot stack those types of abilities. You'll get a prompt that says, hey, only one damage buffing ability can be on a Warframe, and this Warframe already has one. So a lot of questions answered on there. And if you don't like your Helminth name, you can change the name at any time. So lots of interesting information. I liked it. I know, Zach, when's the last time you played Warframe? It's been a while, hasn't it?
A year or two ago, whenever they launched the first open world area, I tried it out again. I like the game. It's just, I don't know, like it's a game that I know that I have to spend a lot of time in to get sort of caught up because of the nature of the title. And I don't really know if I want to get caught up. It's just, I don't know. It's a good game. It's not for me, I guess.
Jason, they did say that although, some of the areas where you can get to for this stuff are earlier in the game, as far as actually using the customization system, you will have to be mastery rank 15. So you'll have to have done quite a fair amount of leveling Warframes, leveling weapons to reach mastery rank 15 to be able to use this. So yet another thing that is gated off from new players, probably for good reason, because I think this does add some more complexity to how you build your Warframe. But this is already still a difficult game to get into for a totally brand new player. And here's yet another thing that as you're leveling, you're going to have to learn an entirely new system too, because you didn't get any experience with it as you were beginning your journey in Warframe. I worry sometimes about the accessibility of Warframe at this point.
I mean, if it's something you don't get till you get to level 15 or whatever, which I assume is a lot, then it's not something a new player has to worry about until you get there. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But by then you're going to be a pro, right? You're a pro gamer, ready to just
you are a
pro Warframe or whatever.
A pro tenno. A pro.
They have a Warframe. There must be is there Warframe esports? They're the only video game that doesn't have any.
If you want to check out the forum post, by the way, there's a lot of this is breaking the game. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So have fun.
Didn't I talk about that with Guild Wars the last time we talked about this?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are like, it's a PvE game. Stop.
Yeah, so was Guild Wars.
All right. So, speaking of updates, we do have a little bit of an update to a story we talked about a few weeks ago. Zach going to be doing the first look for this one when it finally goes free to play, because he can actually aerial flip and hit the ball rather than crash bumpers into walls, which is what Jason and I would do. But Rocket League going free to play. Jason, you noticed yesterday that you might be able to get this for a bit of a discount on Steam right now.
I did.
Wasn't it down to like $5.09?
No, that's Rocket Arena. Arena, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Rocket League.
There we go. That's we know that's going to happen. Getting those two mixed up.
Yeah, Adrian, we do know that they're gonna be reworking the new player tutorial, but Digital Extreme's been saying that for years.
Yeah.
But But Jason, so Rocket League did talk a little bit more about the progression of accounts on cross platforms. Now, these were some questions we had when we talked about this a few weeks ago. Some of them got answered, some of them still seem to be outstanding or will have an answer soon-ish.
First of all, you need to have an account on the Epic Game Store, which means I'm surprised Zach's going to be doing. Well, actually, he doesn't really need to. Well,
I have an account on the Epic Game Store
that's
because I
true.
play
You do. That's right.
Paragon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and I
right.
always claim the free games. I'm
Okay.
not against free stuff.
But yeah, it does seem a little less.
Sounds like I'm not against free stuff, even if it comes from my oppressive overlords.
I've never spent anything.
I'll take the crumbs. All right.
Sure. But yeah, it does seem to be a little less arduous than the Fantasy Star Online 2 crossplay was, progression or whatever.
That was annoying.
Yeah. Like they're no big warnings like you will delete your entire account and set your computer on fire if you do this wrong or whatever it was. But yeah, you need to create an account there. Then you have to set a primary platform, which is where you'll have the most progress, and connect other platforms to that, whatever you're on, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, Steam, whatever. You'll mostly get all your stuff, but some exclusive items that are exclusive to a single platform, as well as esports token balances and premium DLC tied to the previous platforms, will not be carried over to the new platform.
So does that mean if I have, the way I read this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if I have, I don't know, a custom car skin that I got that's exclusive to the PlayStation version of the game, and I link my PlayStation account across all the other platforms, that if I log in on Epic Game Store, I'll be able to play with all the progression I had from PlayStation, but I won't be able to use that skin. And if I go back and I log into my PlayStation, same account, keep playing with the progression, and when I'm playing on there, I can still use that skin?
That's what I believe it says.
Okay.
That's how I read it as well. It says it will still be tied to their previous platform. So.
And that includes the DLC, too. That includes the DLC, too.
Premium DLC, yeah. I don't know if that matters. I suppose they're all premiums, all cost money, whatever.
So this is really similar, Zach, to what Destiny ended up doing when Destiny 2 introduced crossplay, where you had to pick which account you wanted to be the crossplay one, and then you tacked on your PlayStation, your Xbox, your PC. They could all play that account. The drawback, of course, is that the account you don't opt to link, you lose that progress on if you link it. So you can have like your PlayStation account, your Xbox account, your PC account, and never link any of them, but then you can't cross-play any of them. If you cross-play link your PlayStation account through your Xbox and your PC, then any progress you had on the Xbox or PC, that's gone. You lose those because you basically overwrote your save with your PlayStation data. It's kind of the same thing Destiny 2 did when it went cross-platform. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a way to do it. I mean, I don't. It's a very complicated thing to do is implement crossplay and transition progression from one area to another. So I don't blame them for doing it this way. I mean, I don't really know why they couldn't make it so everything's available crossplay. I mean, there's not really any reason not to. Where in the past you would have had to buy a box price to play on whatever platform you choose, but now it's free. So.
Well, I guess they do the same thing that Bungie did, right? You kind of look at it and you go, they have the numbers, right? How much of our player base actually bought this on multiple platforms when it was not cross-platform or cross-save in any way? And I would assume that number is probably not zero, but probably not very high either.
Yeah.
So, hey, pick an account. Before we slide over to the weekly bombs, let's talk about some things that just make me laugh. They just make me laugh in the world of free-to-play gaming. I love stuff like this. So Riot Games, you may remember a little bit ago, they kind of backed out of the Neom situation from Saudi Arabia and that partnership. They backed out of that real quick. Like I heard brakes squeal when they backed out of that whole esports deal. Here's what's funny about it. This has led to changing in Riot Games on the way they handle some things. In fact, they've made a little division to help deal with these, a Global Deals Council. And why? Well, Zach, I'll tell you. It's because they didn't know how to handle their email. They ended up in this terrible PR position with a partnership with somebody they probably should not have been partnering with, all over email. Why? According to ESPN, who recently posted an article regarding the whole situation, the reason for all these layers of evaluations that Riot is now adding appears to stem from the fact that the Neom deal occurred due to lack of oversight. Or more pointedly, several Riot executives failed to look over the email sent to them by the French agency that was helping them. Since there was not explicit approval or disapproval of the deal they were emailing about, the agency assumed Riot was fine with it and went ahead with the deal. So all because nobody replied to an email, they end up in what was pretty much a really, really bad PR position for them. Way to go, Riot Games. That just strikes me, Zach, as funny. I like it. I like stuff like that.
I mean, as someone who deals with processes and refining processes, you just got to wonder, how does that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
That's business 101. Make sure your approval processes are like actually functional.
Yeah, they're documented. I do.
Bad.
You do kind of got to go, wait a minute. Wait, you're using this French agency that took a non-reply as affirmation? That might be something you want to explore too, in addition to, guys, let's make sure we reply to our emails. Blue Flame, by the way, thank you so much for the follow. We appreciate that. Go ahead, Jason.
I do have trouble blaming them, though, for just okay, it's silly they didn't get their emails, but who among us has not been, when you've worked for a company that has a lot of people around, especially for the CEO, got these chains that are and go on for like 300 emails. So if you miss this one, I'm not that surprised by it, but
yeah, but you'd still think there'd be approved, like somewhere in that chain, like someone from Riot would have had to say approved, and it would have had to been someone higher up. But
Mike, I want to do the next podcast naked. If you don't respond to this email, I will assume it is okay. There we go.
I'm going to be absent from next week's podcast. I'm going to be a little sick. I can already feel it coming on. Jason, other things that make me laugh: Daybreak Studios acquiring anybody. This makes me laugh. Who are they buying now?
Cold Iron Studios, which was a San Diego developer headed by former Cryptic Studios producer Craig Zinkovich, and also hearing some other people from Perfect World, Cryptic in that area. And they've been working on a free-to-play PC and console game based on the Alien IP, a shooter of some kind. So, good for them. I guess another shooter that Daybreak can be wonderful with. I'm sure it'll be perfect. And yeah.
Please stop screwing with my Alien IP.
Is there anything left to screw? Really?
Out of everything that they could have acquired, when I saw Alien, I'm like, what? That's just so bizarre and out of left field.
I love it.
Probably going to cost like 83 cents. That's all I can afford
Aliens.
right now.
I don't know. You probably can't see them because there's a little alien. There's a xenomorph right there next to my cube from Hellraiser that is signed by Doug Bradley. Because I'm a dork. Zach, I'm sure you were stunned by this. Halo Infinite being pushed back.
Yeah, it's pushed back to 2021. They want to deliver a, quote, a Halo game experience that meets our vision. And apparently studio head Chris Lee said that the difficult decision was because of multiple factors, which included the effects of COVID-19 on developments. And I don't know. I'm happy about this. It's in my bomb. I personally am so tired of what people are accepting out of Halo, with Halo 4 and Halo 5 not being that great. And this is, to me, at least admission that they need to step it up a notch in order to actually get some more people on board with Halo again.
I mean, you can blame COVID all you want and everything, but
did you
see the screenshots that they released that became memes overnight?
Yeah.
Because of the low quality and low environment quality. And it's just, come on.
And a lot of it could have been fixed with ray tracing too.
Yeah.
Just the way the lighting hit.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. If you watch Digital Foundry's analysis, if they would have flipped on ray tracing, it would have looked a lot more detailed because the way that they did the texture maps.
Now, Zista saying that it feels like this just handed Sony the win for the start of the console war. And I don't know, it might be hard to argue with that unless we see another high-profile Xbox exclusive profile to go in that launch window, because that Halo Infinite was supposed to be the Series X console mover, yeah, for the launch window. And granted, they've got some other titles in there, but nothing along the lines of a Halo to go up against Sony and its launch titles. Do you think this changes the landscape for, let's say, the first quarter of console sales, Zach?
So for the first quarter, yes, but Alana Pierce pointed out this, I believe, on one of her videos, and a lot of other people have mentioned it as well, that they don't really need to have a hardware sale lead over Sony to be winning the console war, the console war. And the reason for that is even if Xbox has, say, 45 or 40% compared to, Sony's 60 or 55% in terms of the ratio of ownership, that still is a win for them because they also have the PC and Game Pass on the PC as well. So if you account for
Game Pass
everything
is a game changer at this point.
yeah,
The way they're doing this.
If you account for everything that Xbox, that brand has done, their foundation is at the point where they don't need console sales in order to quote unquote win the console war. And with Halo, Halo is not a game, I don't think, unless they blow it out of the water, that's going to convert people from Sony. It's just not going to happen. I feel like people put so much emphasis on Halo that's not deserved, when the last time Halo actually pulled some people away from another console was around Halo 3.
I disagree a little bit, but not because I think you're looking at the wrong audience. I don't expect Halo to pull people from buying Sony to buying Xbox, but I do think, to Zista's point, that it comes a little more in the way of, oh, well, Halo's not okay. Well, I can wait to buy the console. Like, people that were going to buy an Xbox anyway were going to buy it, in the first launch month because the new Halo, and they love Halo, and that's fine. Now, I think there's a portion of that audience that says, oh, okay, well, I don't have to buy it right away. Then I'll wait till after Christmas when Halo comes out, because that's what I was going to buy. I think it does take away your day 1, day 2, day 3 sales. To your point, yeah, I don't think Halo is converting PlayStation players over to Xbox, but I do think it dices into the people that were maybe day 1 Xbox buyers because Halo was coming out on it.
Yeah,
I think
of
that's
course,
the higher impact.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that. Quarter one's going to be affected, but the long term is highly dependent on Avowed, Fable, the new Forza game, basically everything except for Halo, in my opinion. Because Hellblade as well. I always forget that one for some reason. They need diversity on the platform in order to skew people away from the PlayStation,
right.
And they don't get it with Halo.
No.
And to Zista's point, I don't really think that Xbox cares if you buy their console, because if you're on Game Pass, you're in their ecosystem, and that's all they care about.
Yeah, I
think because hardware doesn't really make them a lot of money.
Well, hardware historically doesn't make any of these companies a lot of money. They usually take a loss on them initially for a period of time, because they want to move the software unit. So yeah, a fair point there. Jason, I don't think you have anything to chime in on this one. You're not an Xbox owner or anything like that.
I played like 10 minutes of Halo.
So we'll let you finish it up with the shareholders saying nope to extra money for EA.
Yeah, we'll see if they actually go through with it, though, anyway, because, money. But yeah, a couple months ago, we had a story about how a group that represents shareholders for...
CTW.
No, I was saying about they represented, CTW represented shareholders for Activision Blizzard, and tried to smack down the CEO's salary there, and tried to get people to vote against that. That wasn't successful. So then they tried the same thing with Activision Blizzard with their top executives, who were looking to have some pretty huge compensation increases
for
as well.
Electronic Arts, EA.
For EA, yeah, whatever. Companies, I don't know. Big companies, lots of money. But yeah, and they tried that, and this time they were a little more successful. They actually got the shareholders to vote against the pay-on-play mandate to automatically increase their the compensation for Andrew Wilson, Blake Jorgensen, and Laura Miele. But yeah, the question is, though, it's a non-binding agreement, so they could still go ahead and award that money, but I don't know what exactly the consequences would be of that, to basically go against shareholders' wishes.
Well, so here's the thing. You gotta watch, because some of these companies are doing, and Zach, you're a financial guy too, man after my own heart. You've probably been watching this. Some of the shenanigans going on to capitalize on the increased revenues due to quarantine and high usage and stuff are shady as fuck right now.
Yep.
With these executives taking, hey, we get a bonus and stock options and all this extra stuff if we meet these objectives, and before they've even paid out, because they're doing very, very well right now, putting more bonuses on top of that, trying to take advantage of this. It's very shady stuff. We're going to actually interview the people at CTW and ask them some questions. And of course, Jason, one of them is going to be, this is non-binding. So what is to stop them from doing it anyway? What would be the blowback from shareholders if they did it anyway? And then a follow-up question is, all right, so let's say the shareholders' voices are heard and they opt not to do this. CEOs are normally going to CEO anyway. What's to stop them from getting the money from some other program along the way in little bits and pieces that aren't noticeable? So I think it's a good move. Kudos to EA shareholders, and I think Activision, hell, when EA beats you on a PR spin, you're in bad shape. when EA beats you for PR, you're in a bad spot. Zach, do you have anything to add on that one? I know you like the finance stuff too, so we're all number dorks over here.
I mean, it's just one of those things where they're being extremely greedy because of the economic situation benefiting them greatly, and as a result, they're trying to set their company essentially up for failure over the long run due to the CEO's own personal greed or executive greed. It's really stupid, and honestly, if these shareholders, and I think they've realized it, if they're smart, they would push back against this heavily. To the point where they will take a stand, because the last thing you want is for gaming to slow down revenue wise by 10 or 20% when things start back up, and you're in a position where you paid your CEO way too much money and you can't fund new investments.
And keep in mind, these are opinions coming from shareholders. These aren't media guys saying you guys make too much money, I think you're doing this wrong.
Exactly.
Or line level employees saying I don't make enough, these people are making. These are your shareholders who ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter what you think of them, they want the company to do as well as it can for as long as it can. Because
and
that's
by
how
as
they
well
make,
as it can, they mean that stock price needs to rise.
That's how they keep their money. The last thing they want to do is cause a company to fail. So by voting something like this down, I don't believe any of them thought our company's going to fail if we don't pay our executives X million more per year. So,
exactly.
All right, let's slide over to the weekly bombs. Zach, you already teased yours, so you can go first.
Yeah, I'm going to give a dub bomb to Halo Infinite for delaying. Halo's been in a position for me, as I mentioned and alluded to for a while, that it really needs to do something big in order to revitalize that series. I mean, the esports scene for that game is dead. Maybe free to play will help it out on the multiplayer front, but I think they really at this point need new blood. They need all the Gen Zers to hop on the Halo train, and the only way to really do that is to create a really good single player experience that makes people want to buy it, and then also check out the multiplayer afterwards, or maybe check out the multiplayer then buy the single player campaign after that. And they got to make people fall in love with Halo again, and they can't do that without good graphics that actually fits the role of a flagship title. And I'm not saying it needs to be hyper realistic, but at least turn ray tracing on, get that working, make it so there's some depth in your lighting. I mean, come on now.
The Chief has been on hard times for a while now.
Yeah. I mean, the polish will be very good for the game, and I can't wait to see the final polished product.
Jason, actually, let me go first because I kind of already teased mine too. I'm going to give a retroactive A-bomb to Activision Blizzard shareholders for not reining their CEO's salary in. And just like I just said, hell, when EA beats you at something public appearance-wise, you made the wrong call and you are in really bad shape. So, retroactive A-bomb. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, so I'm going to give an A-bomb to the newest update for Arcade is the Ipnish Sanctuary. And not even saying it is terrible. I hate typing Ipnish. I hate saying Ipnish. It just doesn't roll off the fingers, doesn't roll off the tongue. I hope I never have to write about that again.
Yeah,
Nothing personal against the game or the expansion. Maybe it's fine, but
if none of you are watching that, it's because it's spelled IPNYSH. It's like just a gumbo of
they
letters.
just grab some Scrabble tiles out of a bag and just plop. Okay, there's our new expansion. Ipnish.
Ninja in chat giving an A-bomb to companies giving in or trying to be greedy. This is why we can't have nice things. Yeah, pretty much right. From the viewers, Ignat, Adrian, Lucian. You sound like incredibly royal with your YouTube name. Like, just, I feel like you should have those, like, what are those, the ivy or the fleurs on either side of the name every time you see it, like, run around movie awards and shit. I love it. Viewer bombs. It might be a bit early to say, but I would like to give my thanks and dub bomb to whoever is responsible for Total War Troy's giveaway. This can possibly be the best giveaway in the last few years. Hopefully it's free for the right reasons. I guess we'll know by the time of your next free-to-play cast. I do badly need a distraction, at least until Heart of Deimos launches. So it was free for a day, Jason. How many people claimed it?
7.5 million.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's disgusting.
So that is, if you want to put it into perspective, then that is, because it was a $50 game, so that's the equivalent of $375 million of revenue.
Oh, Adrian, that's you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
that was
Adrian,
you.
yeah.
I didn't even put it together. You definitely have a very royal YouTube name. I love it. Go ahead.
He's actually is a count. He has his own castle, I hear.
Yes, Count Adrian from now on.
Count Adrian. Yes, but yeah, $375 million in revenue. Which, if you want to do the 12%, we would have gotten from that, or whatever. But
math. Go ahead, Jason.
Mr. Phantasmo, which is almost as good a name as Ignat Adrian Lucian.
But
Mr. Phantasmo says,
but
"I
not
miss
a
the old
count.
music." Yeah, I miss the old music for intro. Sad face.
Yeah, I do too. But
We've been over this.
I can't do anything about somebody snapping up the music rights and then striking everything. Can't do anything about it. Was royalty free for what, 8 years, 6 years, something like that. Go ahead.
But now
Zach.
we have royalty with Adrian.
Right.
Yeah. Breckner Catalan says, at this point, I think Blizzard Activision, interesting way to organize that, are taking money from their employees to keep up development and service for Heroes of the Storm. I almost said Heart of the Swarm there because the acronym always gets me with that one. As for Phantasy Star Online 2, still not available in Romania. So yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of weird.
Heroes of the Storm is so sad. I like that game a lot, but it just let itself go.
You talk about it like it ate too much over the holidays. They put on 20 pounds. Oh, here's the storm. You should have had those extra gingerbread cookies.
How many drinks are we going to have tonight? None. Scott Frame says, hey, Magic Man, nice camera view. Same camera, new one. Same camera, different shot. It's Logitech Brio 4K webcam, but the office has been rearranged so that the background is now much closer to the frame, thus providing a much better focus. A lot is going to be changing over the next 7 days. So this will become a secondary camera. But thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
Yami Kami says, I said it once and I said it again. Actually, I say it a lot of times every time the topic comes up, but whatever. In theory, the best business model for a long-running game like an MMO is subscription. In theory, you just pay a set amount of money each month, get everything in the game, no surprises, no bullshit. And a publisher developer has a reason to A, release new content to keep players in the game, and B, not shut down the servers unless player count really gets too small, and C, not to gouge the players for every penny. And in a perfect world, everything would be PG, but we're not in a perfect world, and companies are greedy by design. As a result, we have microtransactions anyways. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of those points, because before we had crazy microtransactions everywhere, we had free-to-play games, or games going free-to-play from being pay-to-play. And it was because they weren't getting enough players from subscription. As you said, unless the player count really gets too small, that's why they went free-to-play instead of shutting down the servers. So it's evolved into that, and I don't think there's any going back, but I don't think the perfect world is that everything is subscription.
Question of the week last week. What was your favorite part about the Heart of Deimos update for Warframe or TennoCon as a whole? And did you do well at Tenno Trivia? The answer was no to most of you and to myself. So myself. From Count Ignant Adrian Lucian. Question
Is he
of
a
the
count
week.
or a baron? Which?
It's a count. He's a count.
Okay, he's a count. Okay.
He's a count. He's a count. Question of the week. For me, the highlight of the upcoming Warframe update was the mechs. I can't wait to jump into one and squash some infested. I do hope we can fully customize the thing. I also kind of like the idea with the frame sacrifice for an extra ability. Not that Warframe would lack that, but more variety and customizations are always a plus for me. I agree with you. And yeah, the mech is pretty badass. Go ahead, Jason.
Ninja Pandas question of the week. What rank is Ninja Pandas then? Is he like the
Colonel?
He's the court jester.
He's a colonel.
No, a colonel isn't that. That's not nobility. That's a military rank.
Yeah, right. It was different countries, dude.
It's still not nobility. Never mind.
Yeah.
I need to play Crusader Kings.
Wait, what are you gonna put like American nobility at? We don't have. You have to give him military ranks. There's no nobility ranking in America.
He's not American.
I know Ninja's not. I'm just giving it as a freaking example of your faulty logic here that it has to be one or the other.
Faulty. Anyway, Ninja
Duke.
Pandas.
He could be a duke. How about that?
Duke. Okay, Duke. Well, that puts him ahead of the Baron or the Count. So is that a good
Seriously?
idea?
I have no idea. Read the fucking question of the week.
Ninja Pandas Esquire says, question of the week. My highlight of TennoCon was the tour that they gave players if you were at the TennoCon relay during the live show, and that the worm was bloody mahusive. As for the trivia, it was me. For me, it was about how lucky I was when I answered or what my gut was telling me. Just like when you play PSO2 Casino and select viewers to guess. By the end of it, I ranked around the 35k area and finished with around 32k points, unlike my friend, who was mostly in the minus realm until the last few, and then got extremely lucky with the last one where I made a mistake at the end of over 40k points. Well, you should have guessed better,
All right.
Lord, sir. Ninja Pandas.
Lord, sir. So, for those of you interested, in descending order, it is Duke, Marquis, Earl, which is Count, Vicomte, or Viscount, if you want to read it phonetically, and Baron. So, Baron being the
Again,
least
I play Crusader Kings. I know this stuff.
Zach, go ahead. Finish it off.
Regordy says, A-Bomb, you can use that as a question link if you want to, as it pertains as well to digital extremes for feeding of Audrey 2. The issue with feeding Audrey 2 frames is no one is hemorrhaging frames for this to solve an issue. This is just a system to try and curtail the community from having millions of resources, as you have to feed them to A2 so you can take the abilities. Never mind my thoughts on how stupid this is. The community is going to min-max, and it's going to turn into another issue for them to nerf into the ground and then drop as they'll think of something else to do that will break the game somehow. Warframe is proof of concept game that gets half of what's shown and then abandoned for years until it's reworked and is something different. But I'll keep playing it because I'm hooked on the game.
It's like I know that smoking
Youth
is bad for me.
relationship.
It's terrible for me. I shouldn't be smoking. It's awful for me. But you know what? It just tastes so damn good.
Rarity is that guy who plays a game for 2,000 hours on Steam and leaves a negative review.
Yeah.
Also, good of him to point out in chat, Baron Vagabond. We actually have a Baron in chat already.
We do have a Baron.
Counts and nukes now too.
Yeah, whole milk. Not only were you late for the Zach episode, we're getting ready to give this week's question of the week, and we started late, so you're super late.
Yeah, you're really.
Question of the week.
You're the court jester. Definitely. Whole milk with the court jester.
Go watch this on YouTube when it's up to figure that one out. Our question of the week this week: will Rocket League be a better or worse experience as a free-to-play title for you? Why? If you've never tried it before, will the free-to-play conversion bring you in for a brief test drive? Let us know in the comments below. While you're there, don't forget to give us your weekly bombs. Dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the world of gaming, or just in life in general. And if you have a question for the panel, throw that there, and we'll ask them next week on our live show, twitch.tv/MMOBomb, Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we stream Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, some type of free-to-play game, usually Jason or myself. Until next week, Zach, where can everybody find you, sir?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at Zach Sharps. I tweet about a whole lot of different things, and lately I've been sharing a little bit about my test game, which is
a great title.
hopefully
It's a great title.
Yeah, great title. Well, I still haven't committed to actually making a full game. So test game, in its limited scope, is just going to be 2 levels with a side dungeon or 2. And we'll go from there. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, you can just follow me on Twitter. But I warn you, that's not the only thing I tweet about. So just warning you.
Mr. Jason Winter.
Call it Untitled Test Game, and then make sure you don't add a goose accidentally. Find me on Twitter at Winter Informal, streaming at twitch.tv/JasonWinter, where there might be some Troy action over the weekend. I don't mean Blackburn.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can find me on Twitter right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb and get tweets for all the latest news, articles, first look videos, and so much more. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.